It's that time again. Another dev discussion. Boys, girls, degenerates, gather round. The topic today is item drops, but not to be confused with the dev discussion a few months ago, which was item drop rarity? No. It's drop rarity. It's drop rarity. Item drops vary depending on who you're talking to because everyone wants something different. So you're never going to get a solid answer. The way that we're going to approach this is in the interest and longevity of Ashes of Creation. Let's lock in. Starting off, what types of items and upgrades do you expect to drop from regular mobs? Alright, if I'm out in the open world exploring, killing mobs, the only thing that I'm expecting to get from them would be materials and money. In the case of Ashes of Creation, it'll be glint. Since these are regular mobs, I'm not expecting anything crazy. Looking at the glint types, we have dull glint, which is common, dim glint, which is uncommon, glowing glint, which is rare, bright glint, which is heroic, illustrious glint, which is epic, and finally, radiant glint, which is legendary. So again, since these are regular mobs, I'm not expecting anything past rare glint for these types of mobs. I do think it's a possibility once you climb up in level against other mobs, but even then, bright, illustrious, and radiant, especially radiant, I believe is going to be reserved for bosses. And I don't think this is a bad thing either, because this is where you create certain spaces for certain type of grinds and certain types of content. If regular mobs are just dropping lower types of glint and that's something you need to grind for, then you can do that. On the other hand, you'll need a lot more preparation when it comes to getting those other types because they'll be harder to acquire naturally. When it comes to the materials that the mobs are dropping, I also want the same or similar type of pattern that we possibly will have with glint to be followed. If I'm in an area where there's a ton of ore, I think it'd be understandable for a few pieces to drop from those regular mobs in that area. But no one should be getting stacks of any type of material from any regular mob. If any of those mobs are dropping more than what they need to, then we get into a situation where we're getting more materials and glint types pushed into the economy than we actually need. This would aid in the fall of the economy. You know this, I know this, the mailman knows this. Once MMO players feel as if they've achieved everything, they quit the game.
Just a sick world we're living in, sick people.
This has been true because if you look at the past few MMO releases over the years, what happens? People rush to max level, find an exploit, get what they need, and then complain that the game is boring and dead. I think that if we want Ashes of Creation to be a long, lasting, balanced, and fun game, then we have to find the balance early on, and I believe in having regular mobs drop the more expected items. Again, glint, materials relative to the area that the mobs are in, trash items at a good rate, then I think we're cooking. I don't really see any alternative to this either because anything besides dropping what's needed would only result in an unbalanced experience. Second question. Do you feel good when regular mobs have a rare chance to drop powerful items? Okay, I don't want to contradict anything that I just said because I still believe in that, but if you're telling me that it's possible to get, let's say, a heroic item from a regular mob, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what is the drop chance? This goes back to what I was saying about finding an exploit, because if this heroic item is dropping from a regular mob, we have to ask ourselves a few questions. 1. Can we sell it over and over, and does that lead us to breaking the economy? 2. Can I blast through the content now that several people, including myself, have found this exploit? I mean, item. 3. What's the drop rate, and should it change? 4. Was this even worth making a drop, or is it causing more issues? In my personal opinion, I think that if you grind for something, then you deserve it. No way around it, but it should be a reasonable grind. We have been seeing in a lot of games where the developers will implement a system that the community enjoys only to take it back a few weeks or months later because those same developers want the community to spend more time going after said item. There's so many reasons for this, but in our current time, it usually just boils down to a pay-to-win scheme. So, my answer to this would be to make the drop rate super low and have it be an exploit. I mean, item. That increases the fun that's had in the game. It's not groundbreaking, but at the same time, not many people have it. And whether MMO players want to agree or not, that is a driving force for most of us, that being exclusivity.
You have something I want.
Before this happens though, and this is exactly why we have alpha, these things have to be tested over and over because it never feels good when things are taken away from you, especially if it was a feature that made the game more enjoyable for the majority of people. We want the things that most can't get or achieve, right? It allows us to make up for our shortcomings in our life because we never got that validation when we were younger. And we don't have to explain to anyone why we're chasing after pixels in the game. Sorry. Of course, we all feel good when we get a super cool rare item in the game that pretty much has a non-existing drop rate. But I feel like those drops are drops that come when you least expect them because they're so rare, and that's what makes getting them fun and exciting. Are there going to be those that grind for that 0.00000000002% item? Yes, of course, but a majority of people aren't doing that and are just fine with the spontaneousness of it all. So I say, put them in the game, but say it with me.
Make sure it's balanced.
We all know that this is going to take tremendous amounts of testing before we find that sweet spot. I could honestly see us going through several different types of phases until we actually get it right. This is another reason I think that Alpha 2 will last at the very least 1 year. There are just way too many systems to test, and anything less than a year would seem rushed, at least to me. I mean, I don't even think it'll be a year exactly. It'll probably go on for even longer. We have about 3 weeks until we get our next development update, and it's gonna be on the Torn God Spike artifact. I think that's gonna be a crazy stream because now we're kicking off the start of quarter 2 and we're talking about artifacts, which are just crazy in themselves. I know most of us are still riding on the high and hype that we recently got with the fighter showcase, and rightfully so, because it was gas. This is also the first stream of quarter 2, which means we're only 3 months away from the start of quarter 3. I think we're going to see an increase in hype, information that's dropped, and hopefully morale for the project because it has been a long wait. I will say though, if Intrepid can give us what we're looking for in terms of exploits, dog, we're eating. I mean, item.